Why does a man risk everything in secret, yet return to the same bed each night? Why cross a line that breaks trust and still cling to the marriage as if it were the only safe ground left? At first glance, it looks like hypocrisy. In truth, it is psychology. Carl Jung taught that the psyche is a battlefield of opposites: desire and duty, shadow and persona, freedom and safety. When a man cheats but does not leave, he is not choosing one side. He is trying to serve both. The affair feeds the shadow with thrill and validation. The marriage protects the persona with identity, stability, and belonging. He hides because the split feels safer than the truth. This video goes beneath the surface. You'll see the real drivers behind the paradox: fear of losing home, the weight of duty, the rush of novelty, the shadow of guilt, the comfort of routine, the mask before society, the illusion of control, and the silent bond that still holds him. Understand these, and the contradiction finally makes sense. Fear of losing home. A man can chase fire outside and still fear the cold. That fear often has a simple name: home. Home is not only a place, it is a pattern. It is the bed he knows, the cup in the cupboard, the smell of morning, the name on the mailbox, the rhythm that holds his life together. Even when desire pulls him away, the pull back towards safety is strong. Cheating can be a surge of feeling, but marriage is a structure. The surge fades, the structure remains. Inside, he feels two voices. One wants freedom, the other wants ground. He hides this conflict because he does not have words for it. He may even tell himself there is no conflict at all. Yet every choice he makes circles the same center: do not lose home. Carl Jung spoke about the shadow, the hidden parts of the self that we do not like to see. The hidden side carries hunger, thrill, and also fear. When a man acts from that hidden side, he may reach for novelty. He may want to feel alive again. But the same hidden side also clings to what feels safe. This is why he can betray a vow and still cling to the house that vow built. The hidden logic is simple. Novelty gives a spark. Safety gives a base. He tells himself he needs both, and that thought becomes the trap. Stability is more than comfort. It is identity. Within a marriage, he knows who he is: a husband, perhaps a father, a provider, a partner in a shared life. Outside of it, he fears being no one. Even if the marriage has pain, the role inside it still gives shape to his days. Without that shape, he fears the fall into an empty space. He thinks, if I leave, who will I be on Monday morning? This fear can be stronger than guilt. It can be stronger than shame. He may judge himself for what he did and still refuse to face a life without the map that marriage gives. There is also the web around the couple. Families, friends, neighbors, work circles, social ties. He imagines the shock if the web breaks. He fears how others will look at him. He fears the hard talks, the money stress, the empty rooms. He pictures holidays alone or divided. He pictures the hurt in the eyes of those he loves. The mind then builds a simple rule to avoid pain: stay, keep the frame, hide the mess. The secret becomes a way to keep the house standing while feeding a need in the dark. It is not noble. It is not fair. It is a strategy born from fear. Routine can feel like a soft shield. The morning coffee, the shared bills, the plans for the week, even the small fights. These things create a sense of known ground. In the mind, known ground equals control. The affair feels like a separate box that he can open and close. He tells himself it does not touch the rest. He is wrong, but the story helps him cope. The fear of chaos is powerful, so he splits his life to avoid it. He becomes two selves. The public self keeps the rules. The hidden self breaks them. As long as the house does not fall, he tells himself, the split works. There is also a quiet debt that many men carry. Gratitude for a partner who stood by them. Memories of hard seasons survived together, the wish to protect children from pain. Duty is not always cold. Sometimes it is warm and heavy. It says stay and fix the roof. Even if he fails in one area, he may feel bound by duty in many others. He tells himself he can repair what he can and hide what he cannot. This is not true repair, but it shows how the fear of losing home mixes with care for the people inside it. The mix is messy, and the mind uses it to excuse the split. In Jungian terms, the cure begins when the split is seen. In simple terms, truth heals. A man who sees that fear is ruling him can begin to choose with honesty. Until then, he will keep trying to serve two masters, desire and safety. The safer path in his mind is to keep the roof while sneaking out the window. He thinks this protects everyone. In reality, it drains him and harms trust. Yet the pull of home remains strong because home is the symbol of life held together. He does not want to lose that symbol. He wants to borrow fire without burning the house. This is why many men cheat yet stay. It is not only thrill, it is fear. Fear of empty rooms, fear of a broken map, fear of a self without a title, fear of pain for those he loves, mixed with fear of facing his own emptiness. The path forward is not easy. It asks for clean choices, honest grief, and grown truth. But while fear of losing home drives the wheel, he will circle the same road. He will touch fire in secret and come back to the door every night, holding the key like a shield, the weight of duty. Duty is a word that may sound old, but it is still heavy. For many men, the sense of obligation is the invisible chain that holds them in place, even when their actions have already broken vows. Inside the heart, there is a pull toward freedom and excitement, but in the background stands the voice that whispers, "You must stay, you must provide, you must not destroy what you built." This weight can be stronger than any passion. It is not about romance. It is about a deep belief that leaving would collapse too much at once. Carl Jung often wrote about archetypes, the images and roles that live inside the collective mind. One of these is the figure of the provider, the one who carries the load for the family. When a man sees himself through this lens, he may feel chained to the role of husband and father, no matter what mistakes he makes in private. Even if he cheats, he does not want to lose the identity of the man who stays. The betrayal is hidden behind the mask of responsibility, because admitting the full truth would mean facing the collapse of his role. There is also the duty shaped by promises. Marriage vows are not only words spoken in a ceremony, they become threads woven into daily life. Shared bills, shared children, shared routines, all these are silent contracts that extend far beyond love. To leave is to break not only one promise but many. It is to face questions from family, to see disappointment in parents' eyes, to hear blame from friends, to explain pain to children. This web of duty grows heavier with time, and a man may feel that leaving would mean dropping a weight that others cannot carry. So he chooses the strange balance of betrayal in secret and duty in public. Some men see duty as payment for past support. They remember times when their partner stood by them, when money was short, when illness came, when hope was thin. In gratitude, they feel they cannot simply walk away. Even if they look elsewhere for thrill, they return home because they feel they owe a debt to the person who shared their hardest years. This sense of debt is not always conscious. It can be silent, living under the surface, but it works like a tether, pulling them back each time they imagine leaving for good. Duty also carries fear of shame. In many cultures, a man who abandons his family is judged more harshly than a man who hides an affair. Society may forgive the private flaw, but condemn the public break. He knows this, even if he does not say it. He knows that being labeled as the one who left, the one who broke, could follow him for life, so he decides it is better to wear the mask of the dutiful husband, even if the mask hides a shadow. Jung would say this is a compromise with the persona, the image we show to the world, which often hides the truth of our inner conflicts. The weight of duty is not always negative. Sometimes it springs from love, even if it is mixed with fear. A man may cheat and still believe he is protecting his family by staying. He tells himself that his presence gives stability to children, that his income provides comfort, that his daily acts of support matter more than his hidden flaws. This reasoning can be twisted, but it shows how powerful the pull of duty is. It is not only social pressure, it is also the deep instinct to keep shelter around those who depend on him. Yet the danger of this weight is that it can trap both partners in silence. The man stays, but not fully. The woman feels the distance, even if she does not know the cause. Duty without honesty becomes a cage. It holds the family together from the outside, but corrodes trust from the inside. Jung would remind us that carrying a mask for too long weakens the soul. The man who stays only because of duty risks becoming a hollow figure present in body but absent in spirit. Still, many choose this path. They cheat, they hide, they suffer, and then they continue the routine. Why? Because they believe breaking the chain of duty would unleash greater pain than hiding the truth. They choose the burden they know instead of the chaos they fear. They carry the weight because it feels like the only way to keep standing. The psychology here is not about excuses. It is about understanding the invisible ties that explain why betrayal does not always lead to leaving. The weight of duty is one of those ties. It presses down on the heart, reminding him of promises, roles, debts, and the judgment of others. It tells him that walking away would be a heavier sin than staying in silence. And so, even when desire pulls him out, duty drags him back in. This is the paradox many marriages carry, broken in one place, but bound in another, held together by the weight of duty. At the end of this journey, remember, deeper patterns shape every bond of love and desire. The Jung method helps you uncover them and find new clarity. The link is pinned in the first comment. Desire for thrill, need for safety. Inside every person lives a tension between two strong forces, the pull toward adventure and the pull toward security. For men who cheat yet stay married, this conflict becomes the center of their hidden psychology. They are not only chasing a body or a moment, they are chasing a spark of life that feels missing, while at the same time clinging to the walls that keep them steady. Desire for thrill and need for safety dance together, creating both excitement and fear. Carl Jung described the human psyche as a field of opposites. On one side is the longing for freedom, discovery, and novelty. On the other side is the craving for order, belonging, and stability. When a man cheats, he gives in to the first force. He wants to feel alive again, to taste the unknown, to prove to himself that he is still desired or powerful. But when he returns home, the second force takes hold. He remembers that safety is not boring, it is grounding. It is what stops him from floating away into chaos. The thrill is intoxicating because it interrupts routine. Routine, though safe, often feels heavy. The same walls, the same conversations, the same chores, they become symbols of predictability. The affair feels like a break in the pattern, a secret door into another world. Yet no matter how tempting, that world cannot replace the security of the life already built. The man knows this, even if he tries not to admit it. He is drawn to thrill, but he needs safety like air. Without it, he would collapse into emptiness. There is also a symbolic layer here. The thrill represents the shadow, the part of the psyche that carries unexpressed desires, forbidden wishes, and wild impulses. Safety represents the persona, the mask of the stable husband, the responsible adult, the man who provides. Jung believed the shadow and persona are always in tension. If one dominates too much, the other grows restless. A man who lives only for persona feels dead inside, so the shadow bursts out. But a man who lives only for shadow risks losing his whole life to chaos. The cheater who stays married is caught between the two, trying to balance them in secret. Thrill also carries illusion. In the secret space, he feels young again, or free, or untouchable. He confuses intensity with love, novelty with passion. But when the moment fades, reality returns. Bills still need to be paid, children still need care, and the home still stands. As the place where his life is anchored, he realizes that thrill without safety quickly turns into danger, the danger of losing respect, losing family, losing stability. So he retreats, telling himself he can have both, excitement on the side and safety at home. This is the illusion of balance, but it is built on fear. Safety is not only material, it is also emotional. Even in a strained marriage, the bond often runs deeper than he admits. The long years together create an unspoken familiarity. The shared history becomes a cushion. To cut that bond would mean cutting part of himself. He cheats because he wants thrill, but he stays because he cannot cut away his need for that cushion of belonging. This explains why he feels trapped. He cannot fully embrace thrill without risking loss, and he cannot fully rest in safety without craving something more. Society also reinforces this cycle. Men are often taught to seek adventure, to conquer, to prove themselves. At the same time, they are told to provide, to protect, to hold the family structure. Both messages sink into the unconscious, creating a double command: pursue thrill, but guard safety. In this contradiction, the man who cheats but stays believes he is answering both calls. In truth, he is only deepening the split inside himself. The danger of living in this split is that neither side is truly satisfied. Thrill loses meaning when it becomes routine betrayal, and safety weakens when it is built on lies. The man risks living in a state of half-life, never fully free, never fully secure. Jung would call this the failure to integrate the opposites. True growth happens when thrill and safety are not enemies, but parts of a whole life, faced with honesty. Without this integration, the man keeps circling the same path, seeking thrill to escape boredom, running back to safety to escape fear. The story may sound personal, but it is also universal. Every human being feels the pull between risk and protection. The difference is in how one responds. Some confront it with openness, others hide it in secrets. For the unfaithful man who does not leave, thrill and safety remain locked in battle, and he becomes both prisoner and guard. This paradox reveals the core truth. Cheating does not always mean a desire to end the marriage. Sometimes it is the opposite, a desperate attempt to keep the marriage while feeding the restless shadow in secret. The thrill is the spark, but safety is the fire that keeps him alive. And until he faces the contradiction, he will remain trapped between both, unable to let go of either. The shadow of guilt. Every secret carries a weight. For the man who cheats but stays married, that weight often takes the form of guilt. Guilt is not just a passing feeling. It is a shadow that follows him into every room, every meal, every moment of silence at home. He may try to push it away, but it lingers, shaping his behavior in ways he cannot fully control. Carl Jung taught that the shadow holds the parts of ourselves we do not want to face. In this case, guilt becomes part of that shadow. He does not speak of it, he does not admit it, but it seeps into his body and mind. The smile may look normal, but behind it lies an unease. The guilt reminds him that he has crossed a line. It tells him that his words of love do not match his actions. that his image of loyalty does not fit his hidden truth. Why does he stay if the guilt is so strong? Because guilt does not always push someone to leave. More often it pushes them to cling even harder to the marriage. In his mind, staying becomes a way of paying back what he has taken. He convinces himself that being present, providing, and keeping the family together can balance the betrayal he hides. Guilt, instead of driving him away, becomes the chain that keeps him bound. The presence of guilt also explains why many unfaithful men act overly attentive at home after an affair. They buy gifts, offer affection, or show unusual kindness. On the surface, it looks like love. Underneath, it is guilt trying to cover its tracks. This behavior is not always conscious. It springs from the need to restore balance inside the self. He senses that something is broken, so he tries to repair it without confessing the truth. Yet the repair remains incomplete because guilt cannot be erased by gestures alone. Guilt also creates fear. Fear of being found out, fear of judgment, fear of rejection. Every message on a phone, every unexplained absence, every slip of the tongue becomes a possible crack in the wall. Living with this fear makes the man more cautious, more secretive, sometimes even more withdrawn. He believes he can control the secret, but guilt makes control fragile. The shadow always finds a way to leak into the light. Over time, guilt can shape the marriage itself. Even if the partner does not know the details, she often feels the distance. She senses when words are hollow, when eyes avoid contact, when the energy between them shifts. Guilt creates an invisible curtain. The man may stay in the house, but the curtain separates him from true intimacy. This is the silent damage of hidden betrayal. The body is present, but the heart hides behind guilt. From a Jungian view, guilt is both poison and signal. It poisons when it is buried and ignored. It becomes a silent rot, corroding trust and joy. But it is also a signal, a call from the unconscious to face the truth. If listened to, guilt can lead to honesty and growth. If denied, it traps the man in endless cycles of secrecy and shame. This is why Jung insisted that facing the shadow is the path to wholeness. Ignoring guilt does not erase it, only truth does. Many men who cheat and stay do not recognize this. They believe time will wash guilt away. They wait, they hide, they distract themselves, but guilt does not dissolve with time. It grows heavier. It creates distance, not only from the partner, but from the self. The man begins to feel split in two. The self that pretends to be loyal and the self that knows it has failed. This split drains energy, making him restless, defensive, or even angry without reason. The anger is often guilt in disguise. Yet guilt is also the reason he does not walk away. To leave would mean admitting the betrayal, facing the pain, carrying open shame. Staying feels safer. In staying, he can pretend that the betrayal was only a moment, while the marriage is the lasting truth. He tells himself he can bury the guilt, that no one has to know. This self-deception allows him to carry on, but it does not free him. The shadow of guilt follows, whispering, pressing, weighing down every step. In the end, the shadow of guilt explains much of the paradox. It is not that he cheats and does not care. It is that he cheats and cannot face the full truth, so he stays bound by duty, fear, and guilt itself. He hopes the weight will fade, but it rarely does. Jung's insight reminds us, what is not made, conscious returns as fate. For the unfaithful man, guilt will keep returning until it is faced. Until then, he remains caught in the shadow, unable to leave, unable to confess, unable to live in full light. Comfort in routine. Routine is often painted as boring, but in truth, it is one of the strongest forces that keep a man tied to his marriage. For the man who cheats yet does not leave, routine becomes both shield and anchor. It may not be thrilling, but it provides a rhythm that makes life feel stable. Even in a marriage where desire has faded or conflicts exist, routine gives a sense of direction. It tells him where to be, what to do, and who he is supposed to be. Without it, he fears he would be lost. Carl Jung taught that symbols shape human life more than logic does. Routine, though simple, becomes a powerful symbol of continuity. Breakfast at the same table, driving the same road to work, returning to the same home at night. These daily acts form a pattern that reassures the unconscious. The pattern says, life goes on, I am safe, I belong somewhere. When a man cheats, he may break the vow, but he rarely wants to break the pattern. The thought of losing the routine can feel more terrifying than losing the thrill. Routine also acts as a comfort zone. It softens the weight of guilt. When he eats dinner with his family, helps with chores, or watches television on the couch, he feels a temporary peace. These familiar scenes allow him to believe that life is still intact. The affair becomes a side chapter, but the main story continues unchanged. This illusion helps him cope with the contradiction. He convinces himself that as long as the routine stands, the marriage stands. Another hidden power of routine is identity. Within its rhythm, he knows who he is. He is the husband, the father, the provider. These roles are reinforced each day by repeated actions. To leave would mean to step out of the script. He would no longer have the same defined identity. This loss of role can feel like a loss of self. Jung explained that the persona, the mask we show to society, is shaped by repeated behaviors. Routine builds that mask. Without it, the man fears exposure, emptiness, or chaos. Routine also protects him from the judgment of others. As long as he maintains the outer pattern, going to work, attending family events, staying present in the home, society sees him as stable and responsible. Neighbors, friends, and family may admire his consistency. This outward image hides the cracks beneath. By keeping routine, he shields himself from suspicion. Breaking the pattern by leaving would expose him, while keeping it intact allows him to remain hidden in plain sight. There is also comfort in predictability. Human beings fear the unknown, and men are no exception. An affair brings thrill, but also uncertainty. It can never fully guarantee loyalty, stability, or a future. Marriage, even when imperfect, carries predictability. Bills will be paid, meals will be cooked, beds will be shared, traditions will be repeated. This predictability soothes the unconscious. It may not inspire passion, but it reduces fear. That reduction of fear is a powerful reason to stay. Routine ties are not only personal, but also practical. Shared finances, joint property, children's schedules, extended family responsibilities, all of these are woven into the daily pattern. To break the marriage would mean to break the web of tasks and plans. The man knows that leaving would not only shake his life, but also disrupt the lives of many others. The weight of this disruption feels overwhelming, so he chooses to stay. In the familiar routine, even if his heart is divided, yet the danger of comfort in routine is stagnation. When a man clings to routine without facing his truth, he begins to live mechanically. The days pass, but he is not fully alive in them. He hides behind repetition, using it as an excuse not to confront deeper issues. Jung would say this is the danger of living only through persona. The mask of routine becomes too rigid, leaving no room for growth. The affair may provide moments of escape, but it does not solve the emptiness that routine hides. Still, many men prefer this half-life to the risk of change. They accept boredom over chaos, silence over confrontation, routine over truth. To them, the comfort of routine feels safer than the storm of honesty. And so they stay, repeating the same steps, convincing themselves that safety is enough. The paradox is clear. Routine gives peace, but it also prevents transformation. For the unfaithful man, Routine becomes both his comfort and his cage. It allows him to stay in the marriage, but it also locks him in patterns that stop him from healing. Until he faces this truth, he will continue to walk the same circles, craving thrill, fearing loss, and finding temporary peace in the comfort of routine. The mask before society. A man rarely cheats in total freedom. Even when he hides his actions well, he carries the awareness that eyes are watching. Friends, co-workers, relatives, neighbors. Society always plays the role of witness. For the unfaithful man who stays in his marriage, this presence of society becomes a silent pressure. It shapes his choices and explains why he clings to the marriage even when his loyalty has been broken. Carl Jung spoke often of the persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. Persona is not false by nature, but it can become dangerous when it replaces the true self. The married man who cheats lives behind such a mask. In front of others, he appears stable. A husband, perhaps a father, someone who honors family structure. Behind closed doors, he carries a hidden life. The mask is what allows him to survive socially. Without it, his image would collapse. And for many men, image before society feels as important as breath. This mask is not only vanity, it is survival. In most communities, leaving a marriage carries stigma. The man who abandons his wife and children is often judged more harshly than the man who hides a private affair. He knows this, even unconsciously. He calculates the cost of leaving, whispers, blame, maybe even rejection by family or friends. The social cost feels unbearable, and so he keeps the marriage standing, because the mask requires it. The mask tells the world he is still honorable, still steady, still dependable. The mask also gives him power. At work, he may be respected as a married man. In family gatherings, he is seen as responsible. In his community, he holds status through his role as husband. These roles feed his sense of identity. To lose them would be to lose recognition. And recognition for the human psyche is a source of strength. Jung described how the persona can become overvalued when a man identifies so much with his social image that he cannot imagine life without it. This overvaluation explains why he stays married, even when he betrays the vows of marriage itself. But the mask demands energy. Keeping two lives separate is exhausting. He must remember lies, cover tracks, manage appearances. He tells himself the effort is worth it because society never suspects. Yet deep inside, he knows the mask is fragile. A single discovery could shatter it. This constant risk adds to the weight of guilt and fear. Still, he prefers the risk of being caught over the certainty of being judged for leaving. In his mind, hiding is safer than exposing. The mask before society also explains certain behaviors after betrayal. Some men become overly public about their devotion. They post pictures with their spouse, speak about family values, show exaggerated loyalty in front of others. These acts are not always genuine expressions of love. Often, they are reinforcements of the mask. The man is trying to convince society, and perhaps himself, that nothing is broken. By strengthening the mask, he hopes to silence suspicion. There is irony in this. The more he polishes the mask, the more disconnected he becomes from his authentic self. Jung warned that when the persona dominates, the individual loses touch with the soul. The man who cheats but stays married may look intact before others, but inside he feels empty. The applause of society cannot heal the fracture within. The mask protects his image but deepens his split. And yet, the mask is powerful. Few men are willing to give it up. They fear ridicule more than loneliness. They fear judgment more than the loss of desire. They fear exposure more than silence. This fear is what locks them in the paradox, living a double life but refusing to leave the official one. In truth, they are not staying only for family or duty. They are staying for the mask, the persona that society applauds, the role that keeps them standing in public. The tragedy is that the mask cannot last forever. At some point, cracks appear. Secrets are rarely eternal. When the mask breaks, the man faces both exposure and inner collapse. But until that moment, the mask is his shield. It is what allows him to betray and still belong, to lie and still be respected, to fracture and still appear whole. Society sees the mask, not the man, and as long as the mask is intact, he stays in the marriage, not for love alone, but for survival. The illusion of control. One of the strongest reasons an unfaithful man remains in his marriage is the belief that he can control the two worlds he created. He convinces himself that the affair is only a secret chapter, carefully managed, while the marriage remains the main book of his life. This is the illusion of control, the thought that he can balance desire and duty without either one collapsing. Carl Jung explained that the ego often builds illusions to protect itself from conflict. In this case, the illusion tells the man that he is strong enough to manage the split. He thinks, if I am careful, if I hide well, if I stay responsible at home, then I can have both. He sees himself as the one holding all the strings. In reality, the strings are already tangled, but the illusion blinds him from seeing it. The illusion of control grows stronger because at first it seems to work. He cheats and still comes home. The bills are paid, the children are cared for, the marriage continues. Nothing appears broken on the surface. This convinces him that he has mastered the art of separation. He believes he has found a way to feed his hunger without destroying his stability. The apparent success of this double life fuels the illusion, but the unconscious never forgets. What is hidden always leaks out. A change in tone, a delay in response, a slip in words. The cracks appear. The partner may sense the distance without proof. The man may grow restless, guilty, or defensive. Each of these signals reveals that the control is not as perfect as he believes. Yet instead of facing this truth, he doubles down. He polishes the mask, reinforces the routine, acts more dutiful. He tells himself he can fix the cracks. This cycle is the essence of illusion, repairing the surface while the foundation shakes. Why does he cling so hard to this illusion? Because control gives him a sense of power. In the marriage, he may feel ordinary. In the affair, he feels desired, alive, free. By holding both worlds, he believes he proves his strength. The illusion feeds his ego, telling him he is clever enough to avoid the consequences of his actions. Jung described this as inflation of the ego, the moment when a man feels larger than life, forgetting that the unconscious always balances excess with collapse. Control also protects him from fear. To admit he has lost control would mean facing guilt, exposure, and the possibility of losing everything. The illusion shields him from this terror. It whispers, "You are still safe. No one will know. Nothing will break." The whisper soothes him, even as the risk grows. He prefers illusion to truth because illusion is painless. Truth would demand change, confession, or separation. Illusion allows him to keep both worlds without choosing. The danger of the illusion is that it delays honesty. He postpones decisions, avoids hard conversations, and hides behind secrecy. The longer he holds this pattern, the more fragile his marriage becomes. He believes he is protecting the relationship by staying, but in reality, he is weakening its core. The control he thinks he has is only temporary. The unconscious pushes for balance, and what is hidden eventually surfaces. The affair may be discovered, or the weight of guilt may break him from within. Either way, the illusion cannot last forever. There is also a spiritual cost. Living in illusion divides the self. He becomes two men, the one his partner sees and the one he hides. Jung warned that a divided self cannot thrive. It creates inner emptiness, depression, or anger. The man may not understand why he feels restless, why joy fades, why even the thrill begins to feel dull. The reason is that the illusion has drained him. Control was never real, only a mask, and masks cannot feed the soul. Still, many men cling to this illusion until the end. They stay in the marriage, convinced they are in charge, convinced they can manage the split. They see leaving as failure, confessing as weakness, and honesty as too dangerous. So they continue the double life, living inside the illusion of control. Chat. Paradox is clear. The man cheats because he seeks freedom, yet he stays because he believes he controls the balance. But in truth, he is controlled by fear, guilt, and the very shadow he tries to hide. Jung's insight is sharp here. What is denied in the light rules from the dark. The man may think he is master of two worlds, but in reality, the shadow is the master, and he is only obeying it, the silent bond that holds. Beyond fear, guilt, duty, and routine, there is something deeper that explains why many unfaithful men do not leave their marriage: the silent bond. This bond is not always spoken, not always visible, but it exists in the shared life built over years. It is made of memories, habits, emotions, and unspoken ties that connect two people beyond logic. Even when betrayal enters, the bond remains. And it is this invisible thread that often holds a man in place more than any promise or fear. Carl Jung believed that human connections reach into the unconscious. He described the concept of anima and animus, inner images of the feminine and masculine that shape attraction and attachment. A marriage over time intertwines these inner figures. The partner becomes not only a companion, but also a mirror of hidden aspects of the self. This mirror is hard to abandon. Even if desire fades or mistakes occur, the bond created through years of reflection remains powerful. The unfaithful man may betray the vow, but he cannot easily cut the tie that connects his soul to the person who knows his depths. The silent bond is built through shared history. Birthdays celebrated, crises survived, losses grieved, victories enjoyed. Each moment leaves a mark, weaving a net of meaning. To leave the marriage would mean to abandon not only a partner, but also part of his own story. The man senses this, even if he does not say it aloud. The affair may give him thrill, but it cannot give him the weight of shared years. This weight, though quiet, pulls him back each time he considers leaving. There is also the bond of responsibility toward children, if they exist. Children represent a living connection between two partners. They embody both past and future. For many men, this bond is sacred, even when their actions contradict it. They may fail as husbands, but they do not want to fail as fathers. Staying in the marriage feels like a way of protecting the children from the rupture of separation. Even if the relationship with the partner is fractured, the bond through the children becomes a rope that ties him to the marriage. Another element of the silent bond is familiarity. After years together, two people learn each other's rhythms, the way they speak, the way they breathe, the way they move through the house. This familiarity creates comfort that no new relationship can replicate. Immediately, the unfaithful man may enjoy passion elsewhere, but at home he finds recognition. He's known without needing to explain. He is understood in ways that only time can create. This familiarity, though quiet, is often stronger than the thrill of novelty. The silent bond also comes from forgiveness, not always explicit, but often present. In many marriages, conflicts, disappointments, and failures have already been endured. The couple has survived storms before. This history of survival gives the man the sense that even betrayal might be endured if it stays hidden. He trusts, sometimes wrongly, that the bond can absorb the weight of his shadow. This belief, though dangerous, shows how deeply he relies on the silent strength of the relationship. From a Jungian view, this bond represents the collective unconscious at work in relationships. Two lives joined in marriage become more than individuals. They form a shared psyche, a unit that holds memories, roles, and meaning. To break that unit is not only a practical decision, but a symbolic rupture. The unfaithful man senses this. He may not put it into words, but he feels that leaving would mean tearing apart something larger than himself. And so, he stays. The silent bond is not always healthy. Sometimes it traps partners in cycles of pain, silence, or resentment. But it is real, and it is powerful. It explains why many men cannot walk away, even when they have already walked out emotionally. The bond whispers that the marriage is still home, still identity, still story. It tells him that breaking it would be like breaking himself. In this silent bond is both the tragedy and the mystery of human connection. It can hold people together in love, but it can also hold them together in contradiction. For the unfaithful man, it becomes the last chain, the final reason he does not leave. He cheats, he hides, he suffers, but he stays, because beyond thrill and fear, beyond guilt and duty, there is a bond he cannot name, the bond that holds.